So my phone rings, and it's about 7 a.m. This is really pretty early. Phone doesn't usually start that early. But there's a gentleman on the end of the phone, and he said, "My name is Robert McLean." He said, "You don't know me," but he said, "I'm a scientist at the Center for Biomedical Optics at the University of Utah." And he said, "We've invented a technology that we know is going to change the world of nutrition forever." And he said, "We'd like you to take a look at it." Now, this is a really strange phone call. I mean, I don't know about you, but I never get phone calls like that. And I said to this guy, "Okay, so tell me your name again, and where are you calling from, and what are you doing? What have you developed?" And he gave me more information. I said, "So, why are you calling me?" And he goes, "Well, we've heard about you. We got your name from some people that we know, that we work with, and we understand that you and your company sell tons and tons of vitamins." And he knew about Life Pack and everything at the time. And he said, we would like to have you come see what you think about this." And so I said, "All right, I'll be happy to do that." And he set a time for the following Thursday. And he said, "Write this address down." He says, "Do you know where the Huntsman Cancer Center is in University of Utah area?" He said, "Would you be willing to come?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "Come up to the 7th floor. We're in this room." He goes, "We're doing some testing up here with this device that we've invented. We'd like you to meet us there." And so the next Thursday I did that, and I went down the long hallway to this little room at the end of the hall, and it was a small room, probably 10 by 10. It was just almost like a big closet. And I walk in this room, and I immediately sense all the heat. There's just a ton of heat pouring out of this room. It's really hot. And that's because at the time, the technology of the biophotonic scanner was a laptop computer running the software, and it was attached to some equipment that was attached to this massive 4-foot-long blue argon gas laser. And that's what generated the blue light, the blue wavelength that they needed to measure what they measure with the scanner. And this was just all a bunch of pieces and parts and power cords and data cords and a fiber optic line that was coming out of the end of this laser. And it wasn't even like really secured. It was like they could move it around. It wasn't like you put your hand up to what we have today with the scanner. And so they positioned it on the palm of my hand, exactly the same spot that we do with the current scanner technology today. And they scanned me. And they got a score of 48,000. And there's two scientists there. The other scientist besides Mr. McLean was Robert Gellerman. And Werner Gellerman. And Werner's from Germany. He's a physicist, super bright physicist, kind of in the long line of great German physicists. And he's tenured. He's been at the University of Utah for a long time and understands the physics, and they've developed this technology. And so they look at each other and they're like, "No, that can't be. That's not possible." They said, "Something's a little off maybe. Can we go ahead and scan you again?" I said, "Sure." And so they scanned me again. Guess what? I was 48,000 again. And said they looked like, "We got to reboot this thing. Something's wrong." They reboot the whole thing. They scanned me the third time, and guess what I am? You got it, 48,000 points again. And at that point, they said, "Well, I guess you're really 48,000 points, That's the highest score we've ever seen on a person since we've developed this technology." And they said immediately, like, "What do you eat? Tell me exactly what you eat." And I said, "Well, I do eat really well. I'm a student of good health. I have a very clean diet." I said, "I don't go to McDonald's, but I'm not perfect." And they said, No, you got to tell us exactly what you eat." I said, "Look, I really don't know for sure. I can't really track it. I don't track it every day. But I said, I can tell you this." And I reached into my pocket and I pulled out a Life Pack sachet, the plastic little container with the pills inside. And I said, "What I can tell you is that I've been eating 2 of these packages a day, every day for the last 8 years in a row." And that was when, Life Pack came out in 1992. And I'd been on it every day up through that time of 2000. So immediately these guys turn their attention to the pack. They go, "Okay, so what's in this packet? We're really impressed with your compliance that you would be so consistent." They said, "What is in this packet? How many milligrams of this and this and this?" And I said, "Honestly, I can't tell you without having the box. I don't know how many milligrams of things are in there." But I said, "I'm convinced it's a great product. I'm obviously convinced I'm on it consistently." And I said, "So, something that we should talk about." And so at that point, they said, hey, can we go down and get a bite to eat? So we go down to the cafeteria that's on the first floor of this Huntsman Cancer Center, and we have this 2.5-hour conversation. And I'm asking all these questions, you know. I mean, I know enough about antioxidants and about nutrition and everything, and so I ascertain they're measuring antioxidants. They're measuring a certain class of antioxidants called carotenoids, and I'm quizzing them about how they're doing this. They give me the entire background of Raman spectroscopy, which is the technology that the scanner is based on. That, you know, Raman, C.V. Raman from India won the Nobel Prize for this physics discovery back in the 1930s, and it lay dormant for 30 years until the invention of lasers. And when the laser beam came out in the 1960s and kind of became a thing, and they started working with lasers, now for the first time they could actually effectively use Raman spectroscopy to identify different things. And so they talked to me about how this actually worked. And they said to me, you know, when that blue laser goes in your hand, it goes in the entire light spectrum. You look at a rainbow or a prism that comes off a piece of glass. And when you look at that, you can see the entire visible light spectrum to the human eye. There's an invisible spectrum as well.
And I'll stop it right there. Did you hear the word? A prism.